Hello everybody, Megazardex here, back at it again to give you all another very exciting video. And for today, I have my first episode review in a brand new series for my Marvel MCU reviews, being What If. Now, this is normally going to be a series I'm going to live stream my, reviews to y'all basically the Thursday after the Wednesday when they normally drop though, but my schedule's been a little bit funky here lately. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and record these couple of episode reviews. So for this one, it's going to be over the first episodes where, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger, and I'll be talking about that. And then some point later on, hopefully this week, I'll have the second episode up on my channel by then though. So yeah, oh goodness, there's a lot of stuff I gotta say about this first episode. I think they did a pretty good job on it. I do have a few little critiques about it though, but we'll dive all up into it whenever we do get up in here though, because I definitely like the way how Marvel's handling the multiverse, which is another big thing that I gotta go through and discuss as I go further along with this review though. But you know what, let's go ahead and get up into it though. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this first episode review for What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger. Project Rebirth was underway in the midst of World War II, aimed at transforming Allied troops into super soldiers to greatly assist the efforts against the Axis powers. Steve Rogers, the first super soldier, turned the tide of war in favor of the Allies before sacrificing himself to save countless civilians from harm. The Watcher observes a new universe is created when Peggy Carter declines to retreat to the viewing booth as Steve Rogers prepared to undergo his transformation. While witnessing Abraham present his super soldier creation process, Carter discovers a suspicious object planted by Erskine's feet and sees Hydra agent Hines pulling out a detonator. Carter is unable to prevent the resulting explosion, which kills Erskine, and the frail Rogers attempts to fight Kruger but is shot down. Before Kruger can flee with a vial of, the super soldier serum, Carter kills him and recovers it, while Rogers is unable to resume his transformation and Howard Stark refusing to step in. Carter volunteers in his place to save the project, becoming a super soldier. In which all of this upset Flynn, because now all of this money that was spent to basically upgrade or transform Steve Rogers, this pale man, to a super soldier, is now all spent on a woman, which basically got him super upset. So that's the interesting thing about this first episode, is Peggy Carter basically, as with her staying on the show floor instead of going up into that high booth in that watching area, basically created this whole other universe where she became basically the new Captain America, but she went by the name Captain Carter instead of Steve Rogers becoming Captain America instead. So it all started and stemmed off whenever Carter was like, you know what, I'll stay on the floor instead of going up in the viewing booths. That's kind of interesting how that one little tiny event causes a dramatic shift change in all of this in terms of who basically gets the superpowers though. So Flynn, intending to use Carter's blood to recreate Erskine's serum, insists that women are not meant to fight on the front lines of war. Carter is left infuriated with his comments, and she trains with Rogers in another room, who revealed to her that his best friend, Bucky Barnes, had been deployed to Europe as part of the 107th Regiment. Carter, Stark, and Flynn briefed on a significant gamma signatures picked up in Norway, where Hydra leader Schmidt and his forces have invaded for the Tesseract. Carter and Stark deduce Berlin as Hydra's destination for the ancient relic, but Flynn refuses to send his troops to intercept it. Unfazed, Stark decides to create battle gear for Carter, meeting up with her at a bar to deliver the modified USO costume and a circular vibranium shield. And yes, this one definitely looks drastically different from Captain America. While you still got some of the the blue and red sort of kind of going on there with the white, hers is more so in the light of, like the British flag. That's what's kind of like on her thing, even though I think it's basically supposed to symbolize the Union, while, Captain America's, like Star Spangled Banner on his shield. So that's how, the two different shields look in, drastic difference from each other though. Now, Carter ambushes Hydra alone in Berlin, capturing Zola and securing the Tesseract for the Allies. She pursues Flynn to promote her to the rank of captain while entrusting the cube to Stark, who uses it to empower a gigantic armor suit that he had built for Rogers. Essentially, in this one episode, in this what if scenario, because Howard Stark had the power of the Tesseract, he was basically able to create the first Iron Man suit, which basically, from the way how it looks like and sort of kind of operates, is very similar to the first model that Tony Stark made whenever he had to bust himself out of that one Asian country in Iron Man 1. Basically, the one that was just, it didn't really have flight, or should I say, it can only fly for like that one burst of fuel that it had in its tank, and then basically had to walk the rest. That's how he kind of escaped though. But the one that was like the flamethrower model, Howard Stark basically created that in this first episode alone, thanks to the power of the Tesseract. So it's really interesting to see how Howard Stark was able to create basically the first Iron Man suit before Tony Stark was able to do it. So it was a nice little interesting twist, I must say. Carter and Rogers use intel to locate the 107th Regiment in Hydra's captivity, where Carter launches a lone assault to free Rogers' comrades. Roger arrives in his merch to assist the escape, leaving Carter, Barnes, and the regiment impressed. The war begins to tilt in the Allies' favor, with Captain Carter leading the charge. All the while, Flynn claims to have always supported Carter and had sponsored the creation of Rogers' merch called the Hydra Stomper in a phone call with the president. So it was interesting. They basically gave that sort of kind of Iron Man suit, they basically nicknamed it the Hydra Stomper, or Stomper for short, or whatever though. So Adolf Hitler, furious with the Allied advances into Axis territory, orders Schmidt to Berlin. However, Schmidt betrays the Nazi, declaring that Hydra will surpass the Third Reich as it falls. Meanwhile, Carter and Rogers share an intimate moment at the bar and prepare to share a kiss when Stark just interrupts them with a vehicle Barnes had stolen. It was kind of funny just to see that little bit of humor, how Howard Stark just kind of, just kind of ruined that moment for them right there though. But you got to throw the comedy in there where it can fit in though. So heading to Austrian Alps, Roger positioned himself at the front of Hydra train while Carter, Barnes, and the Howling commanders prepare to infiltrate and capture Schmidt to end the war. But while attempting to gather a visual on Schmidt, Rogers instead finds the front of the train loaded with explosive, which detonates. Everyone else manages to escape unharmed, but mourn for the apparent loss of Rogers. Now I gotta stop right there for a moment, because it was interesting, because with the Hydra Stomper, it basically still kept Steve Rogers relevant, because you would think he wouldn't really be able to do much without his superpowers though. But thanks to Howard Stark with the power of the Tesseract, he basically was controlling this new Iron Man suit. So he was still able to play a predominant role in this series, even though while all the focus was mainly on Captain Carter though. But this one scene right here where that train scene happens, normally in the comics or even in the MCU, that's the moment on that train ride where they lose Bucky Barnes, and then Hydra gets their hold on him and he becomes the Winter Soldier. That's that moment where it happens right there. But instead, on this twist, Rogers takes the fall there, and quote unquote people thought that he died in that one particular moment though. But it was interesting to kind of see how that twist happened. So technically Bucky Barnes is actually okay within this what if scenario for this episode though. So it's kind of interesting just to kind of think about all of that. Now the devastated Carter then interrogates Zola for information regarding Schmidt, learning his plans to use the Tesseract to summon an interdimensional force to conquer the world. Zola also reveals Schmidt's location at Castle de Croc, where Carter and her men plan to assault and stop Hydra. Stark, while not a fighter himself, is brought on board to operate any mechanisms inside. With the Tesseract, Smith opens a portal to bring a tentacle monster to Earth, the champion of Hydra. As Carter and Stark watch on, Smith taunts them, but he is immediately killed by the beast. Elsewhere, Barnes and Howling commandos locate the Hydra Stomper undamaged in a lower area of the castle. They find Rogers alive and help him reactivate the suit without the Tesseract as a power source. Roger then flies away to reunite with Carter. And I just gotta say, that one monster, that squid little monster right there over there, oh my gosh, I was like what the heck? I was like, that's the... I don't know how in the right mind Hydra thought they could basically control that monster. I mean, that thing was a freak of nature. Like, that big old octopus squid-like little thing. Like, what the heck? But anyway, I digress. As the champion continues to grow in size, Carter and Stark devise a plan to push it back into a portal. As Stark reverses the portal suction, Barnes and Howling commandos arrive to help, but are incapacitated when the beast emits a deafening screech, forcing Rogers to escort them to safety outside. With the monster preventing the portal's closure, Carter resorts to push it in herself. Roger attempts to stop her from sacrificing herself, but the suit runs out of power, leaving them helpless. Before Carter crosses through the portal, she and Rogers arrange a date for the dance. And that right there is that critical moment that's very different from, our original Captain America scene. Because in original Captain America, Steve Rogers is like, hey, I'm driving this plane, and if I don't put it down somewhere safe, thousands of people are gonna potentially die from the crash. However, if he decided to land it in sea and sacrifice himself, he can basically save a ton of lives. So that's what happened in the original one. However, with this one, Captain Carter was like, hey, if this beast runs amok, it can kill hundreds, thousands of people. Who knows when that monster will be officially stopped, or shoot, even if they had the technology to basically stop that beast. So she sacrifices herself instead and pushes it through the portal. And in both scenarios, in Captain America as well as this episode of What If, both of them say, hey, you know what, we'll go ahead and share that dance at some later date. They'll get it at some point though. So it was interesting to kind of see how those two different moments, those two different sort of kind of parallel moments, but with a different twist, how both of those kind of play off and stem off of each other though. So the Tesseract is all that remains, and Rogers is left stricken with grief. Elsewhere, Carter emerges from the portal and encounters Hawkeye and Nick Fury, who reveal to her that World War II has ended 70 years ago. Although saddened with the amount of time that has passed, Carter was content with the fact that they had won the war. And that's basically where the episode ended. So overall, I'll definitely say, this is a very interesting episode. I definitely like how I always like Carter as a character, and especially when I went through and watched the Carter series. It was like an ABC series, Ancient Carter. I actually went through and watched that series. That's on Disney Plus if you're interested in watching that though. I mean, I kind of fell in love with Carter's character based on that series alone, and also this stuff that she did within the first Captain America movie though. But it was interesting to basically see her take the spotlight, and she was a very capable superhero in that aspect. Like she was knocking out baddies left and right. There were several moments where she was just beating them up, and it seemed like very easy for her, very natural. I mean, she definitely seemed like she could definitely be one of those kind of hardcore fighters. I definitely like that about her character and personality. Like, she definitely seemed like a very strong and capable independent woman right there. Like, she could get the job done. Like, don't mess with Carter, because she will lay anybody out. And that's the thing I kind of liked about it though. The one thing I didn't like about this episode, which probably will affect the rest of the episodes, is just the pacing of it, because it definitely felt like it was certainly rushed. It was like almost cramming in like a shortened version of the first Captain America movie, but switch out Steve Rogers for Captain Carter like that. Like, that's essentially what they did. Like, they try to, they put Peggy in this role though. I definitely wish it was expanded, maybe the lengths of like for example, like a Falcon and Winter Soldier episode length. I wish it was longer, like the 40, almost up to 50 minutes though. But I think with them trying to cover so many different things and having to animate all of this stuff, I guess they had to make budget cuts somewhere though. I just wish it was so much longer so they could elaborate on some other parts, or just make certain moments just a little bit more drawn out and a little more fleshed out, at least in my own personal taste though. But outside of that, I pretty much like almost everything that was about this episode, and I definitely think, and this kind of goes on the greater scheme of this, we definitely know that this doesn't play any greater role with the Marvel MCU itself, but due to the events that happen at the end of Loki, it makes sense of what they're basically doing and expanding this the multiverse. It makes sense, even though these events aren't going to be canon to the MCU timeline, it makes sense that these basically can happen in different timelines. Like, this series was definitely placed in the right spot at the right time though. But that's basically all I had to say on this first episode of What If, and I'll go through it and talk about the second episode of What If, which will basically explore the what if scenario if T'Challa actually became Star-Lord instead of Black Panther. That will be on what my episode 2 review will be on for that though. So that concludes my first episode review for What If Captain Carter was the first Avenger. If you really like this review, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay up to date on all things What If that I feel like talking about and discussing, and let me know down in those comment section down below if you really like this episode, or was there things that you might have disliked about it or whatnot though, and what are you thinking about in terms of the whole entire series, or what kind of other What If series that you might think might happen within this What If series that Marvel has going out that's going to span roughly about 10 episodes ish. Just leave all those thoughts down in the comment section down below though. But that's going to do it for this review though. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.